Hi, my name is Tony Van Veen, CEO of Discmakers. Welcome to Discmakers video series about music copyrights and publishing. I hope over the next few weeks to answer your questions and clear up some confusion about copyrights, about how you're paid for them, and what you need to do to collect your royalties. I want to start by saying this. I am not a lawyer. And frankly, I'm not even the most super in-depth music right expert. But I've been around music rights long enough to be dangerous, and I found that I'm pretty good at explaining these complicated concepts in simple terms. How the basics of how rights and royalties work. So, before I delve in, I will caveat this video with this comment. If you ever find yourself in a thorny music rights situation, seek advice from an experienced lawyer. All right, now that we got that out of the way, today I'm starting with the top of the pyramid, the various rights contained in your music. One question I've gotten repeatedly from artists in the past few weeks is, what's the difference actually between music rights or music copyrights and royalties? And frankly, at its most basic, it's this. Music rights are the intellectual property rights, the copyrights that you own for music that you have created, or if you're a label that you have bought somehow. Royalties are what others owe you if they want to use the music to which you own the rights. Pretty straightforward, right? Rights you own, royalties you are owed by others who want to use the music for which you own the rights. So let's look at what rights exist for music you create. Basically, all recorded music contains two kinds of rights. One, the right to the recording, also called frequently the sound recording or SR. The sound recording covers the actual recording of the music on the release, that actual version. For example, Jimi Hendrix's famous version of All Along the Watchtower. This right is usually owned by a record label, or if you're an independent artist, the right is owned by you. The second right contained in recorded music is the right to the composition. This, as its name indicates, covers the underlying composition, i.e. the song itself. So in the case of All Along the Watchtower, that right belongs to Bob Dylan, who wrote the song, or more likely to his publishing company. This right is typically owned by the songwriter and or by a publishing company if they have one. And in common industry lingo, this is frequently referred to as the right to the publishing. So, two rights. These two rights, the sound recording and publishing, can be monetized across many different ways your music is distributed or published or used. And right along with those uses, there are a number of royalties that are owed and a number of organizations that exist to collect and distribute those royalties. So there are many royalties, but here are the 5 most common royalties that need to be licensed and paid. 1, royalties on the sound recording. So when a streaming site streams your music, or a distributor, if you're going old school, sells your CD, most of the money collected is paid because you own the sound recording rights. However, it's not just streaming companies or distributors who pay for sound recordings. Many other kinds of companies and uses require some kind of payment for the use of a sound recording. Number 2, publishing royalties. These are the royalties on the underlying composition, often called mechanical royalties. Most uses of music require a mechanical royalty to be paid. Number 3, public performance. When your music is performed at a public venue, a public performance royalty is due to the songwriter or the publisher. And this is collected by a performance rights organization, or a PRO as they're called, like ASCAP or BMI or CSAC. Number 4, neighboring rights. Now, neighboring rights are tricky. So where the performance rights I just mentioned, the public performance rights, are paid to songwriters or publishers, the neighboring rights are the public performance royalties that are paid to the owner of the sound recording, i.e. to the artist or the labels. However, in the US, this gets really tricky. And I'll delve into this in a later video, but in a nutshell, most neighboring rights collections in the US cover non-terrestrial radio, i.e. like Pandora and Sirius XM. And the organization that collects these is called Sound Exchange. Outside the US, however, neighboring rights are collected for radio and public performance broadcasts by a performance rights organization. And then the fifth royalty, or rights use, is synchronization rights. And this is a royalty or a license fee that is paid to rights holders whenever your music is used in a video medium. For example, film, TV, games, or commercials. So only 2 rights to your song, but so many uses and so many royalties. Are you confused yet? Well, fear not. In the next few weeks, or maybe many weeks, because this is interesting in many facets to this topic, depending as we delve into this. In the next few weeks, I'll delve into these topics. We'll discuss how you can get your slice of the pie. And starting next week with this big question. Should you copyright your song? Why? And how do you do it? I'll see you next week. Take care.